Good morning, boys and girls. Welcome back. Uh, we have been in 2 Kings discussing Elisha and the miracles that God allowed to be done through him. As Elisha followed God, God used him to do many different things. Last week, we talked about the axe head. The week before, we talked about digging ditches, with both of them having the lesson of obeying. Boys and girls, I think it's a lesson we could all do our whole life. I know I say boys and girls, but Peter and I have to work on obeying. We both have bosses that we have to obey, people that are over us that we must obey. So boys and girls, it's not just a lesson when you're a kid. It's something we can all be reminded of. But carrying on in 2 Kings chapter 6, last week we only covered verses 1 through 7. So this week we're going to pick up in verse 8. Now, how many of you are interested in spies or spy movies or the idea of just being undercover, kind of sneaking up and listening? You probably like to sneak up on people. Okay? But we're going to kind of start off with that where this king thinks someone's hiding out in his bedroom to hear his secret plans. He's pretty convinced that somebody is there giving away his secrets. Let's read verse 8. Then the king of Syria warred against Israel and took counsel with his servants, saying, in such and such a place shall be my camp. And the man of God sent unto the king of Israel, saying, beware that thou pass not such a place, for thither the Syrians are come down. So the THs and the S's were getting mixed up there. But so the king of Syria tells his plan, we're going to go camp here. Well, he tells his men, and then Elisha, the man of God, goes to the king of Israel, and he's like, don't go there. He's going to be there. So verse number 10, and the king of Israel sent to the place which the man of God told him and warned him of, and saved himself there, not once, nor twice. In other words, this just keeps happening. The king of Syria is trying to get to the king of Israel. Every time he sets up a camp, he's going to get him. The king of Israel's gone. The king of Israel doesn't go that way. The king of Israel's somewhere different. And it's because God is telling Elisha to tell the king of Israel where not to go. But the king of Syria is going nuts. He's going crazy. He's like, how does the king of Israel always know where I'm going to be? Surely there's a spy, but there's not. It's God who knows everything and who's protecting his people. Well, the king of Syria finally figures out about Elisha, and he's like, I don't like this guy. This guy's bad. I don't like him. I have got to capture him. I have got to get rid of him, or I am never going to defeat the Israelites. Verse 11, therefore the heart of the king of Syria was sore troubled for this thing, and he called his servants and said unto them, will ye not show me which of us is for the king of Israel? Like, who's the traitor? Show me who the traitor is. Verse 12, and one of his servants said, none, my lord, O king, but Elisha the prophet that is in Israel telleth the king of Israel the words that thou speakest in thy bedchamber. He's like, it's none of us. But that man Elisha, he knows, and he tells the king even the things we say in secret. Boys and girls, let that also be a reminder to us. God hears even what we say in secret. Little infomercial there. Verse 13, and he said, go and spy where he is, that I may send and fetch him. And he was told him, saying, behold, he is in Dothan. So he's like, find this guy. You be the spies. You go get him. And they figured out that he was in Dothan. So boys and girls, he's going after one man. Keep that in mind, please. Verse 14, therefore sent he thither horses and chariots and a great host. And they came by night and compassed the city about. He sends a huge host to surround a city to capture one man. Now, boys and girls, is Elisha himself stronger than all of that host? No. But Elisha has God's power, and we have seen God protect his people over and over and over. And God's power is mightier than that host. But let's see how God does it. How is God going to save Elisha from this mighty army that's surrounding the city? Verse 15, and when the servant of the man of God was risen early, so one of Elisha's servants wakes up early, and he's like, oh no. Yeah, exactly, Peter. He's like, I better get Elisha because we're surrounded and this isn't good. And gone forth, behold, an host compassed the city, both with horses and chariots. And his servant said unto him, Alas, my master, how shall we do? What are we going to do? Verse 16, and he answered, Fear not. Fear not? Yeah, exactly. Don't you see what I see? The problem was the servant didn't see what Elisha saw. For they that be with us are more than that be with them. You and me. What? Yeah, exactly, Peter. Servant and Elisha against an army with horses and chariots. So the servant's like, wait a minute, what in the world? Verse 17, what does Elisha do? And Elisha prayed and said, Lord, I pray thee, open his eyes that he may see. And the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw, and behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire round about Elisha. So between those chariots and horses of the enemy were fiery chariots and horses. And it was full. And there were more there to protect Elisha than there were to capture Elisha. So the Syrians are out there, though. Something's got to happen. Like, we can tell they're protected, but they're not going to stay there forever. So verse 18, and when they came down to him, Elisha prayed unto the Lord and said, Smite this people, I pray thee, with blindness. And he smote them with blindness according to the word of the Lord. So the verse before, Elisha prays for his servant's eyes to be opened. Now, he was seeing something that not everybody could see. Okay, this was more of a spiritual thing. But yes, they were there. They were protecting Elisha. But now he's praying for blindness. Okay, so we see God's power over sight, making people blind, making people not be able, or being able to see. He asked him to be smote with blindness. Boys and girls, it's going to be awful hard to fight an enemy if you can't see. And how do you find the right enemy if you can't see him? Verse 19, and Elisha said unto them, This is not the way, neither is this the city. Follow me, and I will bring you to the man whom ye seek. But he led them to Samaria. So Elisha actually goes down to the enemy, and he says to the people, hey, this isn't where you want to be, but you should follow me. But because they're blind, they don't even know that they're talking to the man that they came to get, because they can't tell it's him. So he leads them down to Samaria. Verse 20, and it came to pass when they were coming to Samaria that Elisha said, Lord, open the eyes of these men, that they may see. And the Lord opened their eyes, and they saw, and behold, they were in the midst of Samaria. They were surrounded now by their enemy. Verse 21, and the king of Israel said unto Elisha when he saw them, My father, shall I smite them? Shall I smite them? He's like, wait, you just delivered my enemy to me. Do I just kill them? Like, what do I do with them? What do you think he's going to do with them? I mean, what would you do if it was your enemy? Hopefully you wouldn't kill them, okay? But yeah, you might hit them, okay? You might do something in retaliation, but let's see what Elisha tells him to do. And he answered, Thou shalt not smite them. Wouldest thou smite those whom thou hast taken captive with thy sword and with thy bow? Set bread and water before them, that they may eat and drink and go to their master. Don't kill them. Feed them. Give them food. Give them water. And send them back to their master. Return them. Don't even keep them captive. And he prepared. So let's see. Is he going to do it or is he going to kill them? Verse 23. And he prepared great provision for them. And when they had eaten and drunk, he sent them away, and they went to their master. So the bands of Syria came no more into the land of Israel. Boys and girls, for their meanness, their violence, their badness, he returns evil for good. Okay? Or returns good for evil. Thanks, Peter. I said that backwards. Good thing I have Peter to help me out. They were doing evil, but what did the Israelites do in return? They gave good. They showed love. They gave them food. They gave them water. They returned them. And actually, because they did that, Syria never came after. From what we just read, it says, and they came no more into the land of Israel. So even though He didn't defeat them in a way. He did because they never came back after him. So boys and girls, it is important that our enemy or those we don't really like, that we treat them with kindness, that we do what's right. And then we see that the king obeyed. It would have made a whole lot of sense for him to just smite them. But when Elisha said, don't, and feed them, he did that. He fed them. And it says he gave them with great abundance. He fed them a lot. Boys and girls, we see God's power as we have through several of these stories. He opened the servant's eyes. He blinded the Syrian's eyes. Then he opened the Syrian's eyes. The blind are easily deceived, boys and girls. There's spiritual blindness, and we need to pray and ask God for wisdom to help us in what we do, help open our eyes when we need to make a decision. And we need to show kindness, boys and girls, and not just to our enemies, but we need to show kindness to all of those around us, whether they're our friends or acquaintances, strangers. We need to make sure that we're kind. Boys and girls, we look forward to seeing